Hey, how's it going? Just recently, the developers that created The Day Before have now changed their name back to the 8 Points. We possibly could be looking at another scam here coming soon by the same exact developers. What we'll be doing today is looking at a bunch of information, and I'm going to basically help you avoid the next scam game that these crappy developers are going to produce. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this. Well, interesting enough, the developers that created The Day Before have now changed their name from Fantastic back to 8 Points. If you didn't know, this was their original name since the beginning, but then eventually they changed it to Fantastic, and now they're changing it back to 8 Points. But what if I told you that this was not their first time scamming someone out of a game, or essentially just kind of dropping the ball? If you didn't know, they actually made a game at one point called the Wild 8, but eventually they would sell the rights to a publisher because for whatever reason they decided to drop it and create a new game, which was probably The Day Before. Now get this, let's go back a few steps and take a look at the whole entire name change and where it began. For example, if you take a look on the screen here, we can see that it says The Wild 8, and this is a post that was made Thursday, January 26, 2017. This post was made 6 years ago, and what do you know? A few years later, we received the good old Day Before, and man, oh man, things are starting to look weird here. So let's go ahead and take a look down below, and we can see this right here. It says, on another note, developers of the Wild 8 are proud to present their new name, Fantastic. During the whole development process, the team has grown up, both in experience and amount of people. And previous name 8 Points was mainly about the first 8 developers who started it all. To express gratitude to the ones who worked on the Wild 8, but left the team, we would like to keep 8 Points as the second developer. 1.5 years ago, it was even hard to imagine the possibility of developing a game here in Yakutia that will attract so much attention all over the world. It's already a big success for us, and we want to thank everyone who believed in us during the Kickstarter campaign and everyone who is awaiting the release. Our new name, Fantastic, stands for breaking the boundaries and art of imagination. They are our main tools in making the Wild 8 you will enjoy. This was by one of the CEOs, Ed Godostev, and as you can tell, they changed it from 8 Points to Fantastic, and now 6 years later, they're changing it back to 8 Points. So now the question that comes to mind is, why do this now? Well, they just massively screwed up on The Day Before, so this is probably their way of going back to an older name and thinking, hey, nobody's gonna notice a damn thing about the name change, nobody's gonna know that we're the same developers, and honestly, they're wrong about that. Because as you can tell right here, I'm showing you the proof, so this way you can avoid these developers like a plague. It's not worth buying a damn game from them because they have absolutely screwed up The Day Before, and they've also abandoned the Wild 8 as well. Because if you take a look on the screen here, this is a post that was made November 8th, 2017 by a user. His title says, "Developers abandon game. The developers have abandoned the game after taking our cash so that they can start a new game. I suggest reporting the Steam page and giving them a negative review." Then another player had made a comment down below by saying this right here. Yes, they left it, but they sold it to a publisher and it sounds like it will be finished. But according to RPS, there was an internal conflict within the dev team which prompted selling it. So now you might be thinking, who did they sell it to? They sold it to Hype Train Digital. As you can tell on the screen here, it says right here, "Hi, from Hype Train Digital. As you may know, after buying the rights to the Wild 8 in August 2017, we formed a new division in our team which continues working on the project, now in early access on Steam. Thankfully, they did receive all the money that went to the Kickstarter instead of this going straight to the Fantastic developers." But now let's take a look at the other side here and see exactly what's going on, because why would they sell the Wild 8? What's the reason? If you take a look on the screen here, this is an article by Rock Paper Shotgun, and they were able to find this right here, which says, "What happened to the Wild 8? We sold the Wild 8 to our publishers. This decision was very hard for us because our team was hoping to always evolve the game. The Wild 8 is our debut project. It brought us first success and valuable experience, but nevertheless, because of internal conflict with partners within the company, we had to sell the project to the publisher who is now successfully supporting the project. We will always love the Wild 8. It's in our hearts. And to be fair here, I do not know what exactly the internal conflict was, but I guess it was so bad that they had to sell the game. This right here just gives you a sample of what was going on before then, and now can you imagine what's going on then? Like, is there more internal conflict going on? What's the excuse? I don't know. It just seems a bit ridiculous that they would then drop a game prior, then we'll head over here, create the day before, then drop that, then we'll change our name back to the 8 points, and then hey, nobody's gonna notice a thing. We're just gonna walk off in the sunshine with the cashola. But guess what? It's not that simple. Because one, they didn't do a great job on hiding their name for one, because now we know they have changed it back to the 8 points, and we already know why they had the name originally, because they started off with the original 8 developers. Now, did they just go back to the original group, or did they just kick everyone out the door? I would assume they kicked everyone out the door, and then they're like, hey, let's go back to the 8 points name, and we're all gonna just act like this didn't happen. This right here could be a huge possibility, and now let's think about it. If they did go back to the original group, are they going to create another game and potentially scam a bunch of people out of their money? Yes, I think that can actually happen. And so with that being said, if you do see the name 8 points, I highly recommend that you avoid them like the plague, as I mentioned earlier. There is some good news though, okay? I know we've talked about some bad news here, but there is some good news, because if you did purchase the day before, guess what? You're going to be receiving your money back. If you take a look on the screen here, this is going to be a post that was made by Mytona, which is an investor. As it says at the top, to all the day before players. As the investor of the day before, we would like to provide some updates on the current situation around the game. We are sorry for the fact that the game didn't meet the expectation of a majority of the players. Today, we will work with Steam to open up refunds for any players who choose to make a refund. We're in contact with Fantastic regarding the future of the game, which, by the way, let's just cut it off right there. I mean, obviously we're at the end of this sentence, but come on now, the future of the game. I will tell you this right now, there is not going to be a future for the day before, and if there is, I doubt anybody's going to put any trust into it. I mean, come on, this has to be one of the biggest scams in gaming history in a long time. But I will say it's good that a good portion of you will be receiving your money back, because imagine them just taking the money and then running off. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But in the end, Fantastic or 8 points, whichever name they go by, they are going to be in some huge debt here soon. The fact is, you cannot just scam a bunch of players out of a game, raise such high expectations, and say that it's going to be an open world, but in the end you just made an extraction or a looter shooter or whatever the hell it is. It's just utterly ridiculous, man. I don't know how they got away with this, but I'm sure it's not going to last that long. I mean, a lot of people are talking about this, so I would assume here in a couple of days we might just see some more things about the day before where they potentially are just going to be zapped out of money, or they might just produce another game in like a year or so. Which again, if they do produce another game, I highly recommend that you keep the name 8 points in your brain, because let's say that they do create another game, and if you see the developer name 8 points, avoid it. Do not download it, do not give them your money, do not even invest time in it, just avoid it. Anyways, I hope that this helps a lot, because I do not want you guys to get scammed by them again, because why would you want to? And so this way you kind of have an idea of what their new name is, or their old name, or whatever it is. So yeah, as of right now, keep the 8 points in your brain, in your noggin, and just remember that name, as well as Fantastic, just in case they try to do some weird things in the future. With that being said, thank you to everyone who has supported the channel in the last few weeks. It means a lot to me, it really does. I tried to put a lot of effort into the content, and I tried to put a lot of effort in each video. So if you are watching this right now, give the video a like, subscribe, turn those notifications on, and most importantly, I will see you all on the next news update.